Behind the walls of 3221 South Evans Street in Greenville are the hopes and dreams of a hometown boy named Hartwell Campbell. WNCT-TV was his brainchild. Campbell was only 33 years old at the time, a former preacher turned broadcaster who wanted and loved to be heard.
He called the show The Friendly Philosopher. And that was back in the days when radio was pretty wide open and you could do whatever pretty much you wanted to do. So he was allowed to talk about religion and politics and philosophy and current events.
Campbell's son was only a youngster at the time, but he knew his dad was a part of something special.
Through the years, you know, I'd ask Dad, tell me the story of how this happened, or how did you go about doing this?
Hart Campbell went on to be hired as the radio station's general manager. Times and technology were changing, and he wanted more.
WTVR, the Richmond CBS station, had gone on the air, so Dad bought a television set. And from Hopewell, he could see TV. And he said, man, that's it. Pictures and sound? It doesn't get any better than this.
At the time, television had been around since the 20s. There were already 3 other stations operating in North Carolina. It was an industry that Campbell craved.
So he and a group of people went together and turned around and bought the station in Greenville, where he originally was doing his Friendly Philosopher shows. And they bought it with the sole intent of applying for a television station.
The planning started in the early 1950s, an idea that many found to be ridiculous, but they wanted to be a part of. Campbell had to raise money, convincing people to buy shares into the business.
The typical response Dad would always get was, Hartwell, this is the craziest idea I think I've ever heard of in my life. I'll take $2,000 worth.
Hartwell met with RCA executives. At the time, the company was the largest manufacturer of television broadcast equipment. The company did their best to persuade Campbell not to start the company. They said he simply could not afford it, and he needed to find a bigger city.
But Greenville was where he lived. Greenville was where the rest of the shareholders, Greenville, Dunn, that area was where the rest of the shareholders were. It was an area that he loved, and he believed in it. And he believed that's where he wanted to live and raise his family and participate in the affairs of the community.
And so it began. There was no backing down. Campbell convinced RCA to finance part of the equipment. The location was selected. The land had to be big enough for a building and an 800-foot tower. Back then, it was the tallest structure in the region. WNCT went live on December 22nd, 1953.
I was 8.5 years old. I'll never forget it. It was a Tuesday afternoon. We knew that they were going to try to flip the switch, and then everything went to black, and the next thing I saw was my dad. And he was talking, and we could see him and hear him. It was incredible.